dowry. She has to forgive the dowry. But the courts don't make that distinction. So even if the wife is seeking divorce and she's not in a abusive situation or a situation that would allow her to keep the meher, the courts will still make the husband pay the meher. That would be an unfair situation because that's not what the meher agreement is. The meher agreement is if the husband gives the talaq or the wife gets a divorce under the right circumstances, not just a random thing. The other thing is, a lot of times people try to double dip. So for example, the courts don't take that as a prenup that actually waives the actual statutes that apply to alimony and equitable distribution. So for example, I've seen cases where the wife gets $200,000 and all the husband has is a home that he bought for $400,000 and it's paid off. And then the wife is like, well, listen, according to Florida law, I want half the house, so that's $200,000. And according to my Islamic marriage contract, I want the other $200,000, so I want the full $400,000. I've seen it happen. You have to understand that the marriage contract from the masjid, it is not designed and written to be a proper enforceable prenup. It can create a big mess. So my advice is not to go with that, not to rely on it, but to invest in an Islamic prenuptial agreement that is consistent both with your applicable state laws and your Islamic principles, that is reviewed by lawyers. Look, you may have to spend a few $1,000s on it, maybe, but you're spending a few $1,000s to ensure the protection of your marriage. I will tell you, many of the divorces I've seen, they really happen because when there's conflict, each side gets scared of the other. And subhanAllah, shaitan, he does this, it's amazing. I've seen it happen. He's really good at what he does. You got to give it to him. He's really good at what he does. He builds fear of the other, fear that isn't even founded. I've seen it. So the husband thinks that the wife is going to try to destroy him financially. So then he tries to destroy her financially preemptively. And the wife thinks the husband is going to try to destroy her financially. So she tries to destroy him financially preemptively. In reality, neither wanted to destroy the other financially. They actually both wanted to do it in a good way. But because they're both afraid what the other may do, it becomes mutually assured destruction, and they both just sort of go at it. The thing is this, if you have the proper prenup in place, then you know what's going to happen financially if there's a divorce. The reality is, without a prenup, there's a lot of confusion amongst the parties as to what's going to happen, what's a marital asset, what isn't, what the alimony would be, etc. There's a lot of confusion. So instead of the parties working to fix the marriage, they both lawyer up and try just to protect themselves in case it gets to divorce. And then they self-sabotage and they create that very divorce they were afraid of. So if you have the right prenup, you already know what's going to happen in the case of a divorce. Therefore, when the conflict arises, you can focus on, will you preserve the marriage or not about the financial pros and cons of doing so. And if you don't have a prenup, it's not too late. You can get a postnup, which is just like a prenup, but after the marriage. Yes, one from the brothers.
What is the cost of a divorce? How much a lawyer gets out of a divorce case?
Oh my God, what a great question. The brother's asking, what is the cost of a divorce? How much does a lawyer get in the divorce case? Look, divorce isn't cheap. And it is not cheap. And the way these lawyers bill is crazy. So like lawyers bill in what's called like in a tenth of an hour. So if they spend 1 minute on something, they can bill you a tenth of an hour, which is 6 minutes, which is 1/10 of their hourly rate. So technically, if you text your lawyer and they take 1 minute to respond, they could charge you for a tenth of an hour. So if in a day you send 10 texts, maybe the lawyer spent 5 minutes on those 10 texts, but he could bill you for an hour. I've seen it very, very easy for divorces to cost 30, 40, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000.
Just the lawyer fees?
Just the lawyer fees for one side. And I try to do things very differently. So Allah, like with even my own clients, bro, I get taken advantage of. The way other lawyers are billing, their bill would have been 20, 30,000. I've billed them 12 and they're behind on 6. They've only paid 6 and they're upset. Why did I bill them 12? I'm like, wallah, you go to a non-Muslim lawyer, he would have billed you 20, 30,000 and you're upset I billed you 12. People don't get it. They want to fight, but they don't want to pay. And they don't even want to listen to my advice. I remember I had a client, she was like $7,000 behind on her bills. You know, the average lawyer, they take the money up front. When they run out of money, you either pay them more or they stop working. But you know, when you're a Muslim and you don't like to turn people away. So a lot of our clients are on credit, for better or worse. Anyway, here's what the sister did. Under the agreement, she has to return her kids to the father on Saturday. She's like, nope. He won't take them to the doctor appointment. They have a doctor. I want to take them to the doctor appointment, so I'm going to take them on Sunday. I said, sister, you're $7,000 behind on your bill. Now, if you don't take the kids today, he's going to file a motion. I have to go defend that motion. It's going to cost you another $2,000, which you're not even paying me. So you want to fight but not pay. And I have brothers who do the same thing. The point is, it's expensive. If there's nothing in disagreement, if you and the spouse go with everything on the same page, you can get away with a few $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, it's done. If there is a little disagreement, easily will cost $5,000 to $10,000 with just a teeny bit of disagreement. If there is like a little bit more disagreement, 15 to 20. If there's a lot of disagreement, 30, 40, 50 and up. Each side. Yes?
So some of us, if you've gotten married in another country, and if you've signed contracts over there, how does the legality work?
Great question. So if you are married overseas, you are married here. And that's the number one thing. So if you get married in Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, Syria, you come here, you're married, and if you go through a divorce, you will go through a divorce under the laws of Alabama.
Is it the state that you're residing at?
It's the state that you resided in for the 6 months previous to the divorce. Let me take some from the sisters before we come back to the brothers. It's okay, I just... Sisters, don't be afraid, don't be shy, don't feel free to ask anything, inshallah. Wa alaikum salam.
Brother, I have been married overseas, and unfortunately I have been filing divorce over here, and I already got my divorce in US Alabama law, and also Islamically he said it to me.
Okay.
And after I finished all the paperwork over here for Islam in Alabama law, starting growing up in the community that he's saying he did not divorce me yet. So I don't know myself now what's going on. I came here to the masjid. I asked for the divorce paperwork to be the Islamic way showing, but I don't know what's the other step because I never been in this situation. So each one in this community keep giving me a different question, different answer, and I'm stuck.
Okay, no, Allah make it easy. First of all, I'm sorry for what you're going through. Number two is, by the way, if you have a very specific question, and you're welcome to ask in public, but also I'll stick around. If people have more private things, they can talk to me one-on-one, but I'll answer you publicly since you asked publicly. Here's the problem. One is, first of all, I will say this. I don't necessarily, and I'll give you the solution. There's a solution to your situation, but I just want to start with a broader thing. I do not believe that if you are married legally, it means you're married Islamically. Why? Because if you get married Islamically, it doesn't mean you're married legally in America. This is just a side point before I get to your question. I also do not believe if you get divorced legally, it means you're divorced Islamically. Why? Because if you get divorced Islamically, it doesn't mean you're divorced legally. So the two are not connected. But here you're telling me the husband gave you talaq. So if the husband gave you talaq and the iddah finished, you know, but the sheikh is saying he didn't. Now it's becoming more of a thing. But what I want to say is this. For these situations, it shouldn't be, in my opinion, left to the local imams, in my opinion. This situation is coming down to a fatwa. So with a fatwa, each person is responsible to go, and you all have to answer before Allah. So if he has a fatwa that you're not divorced, and you have a fatwa that you are, one of them is right, one of them is wrong. Allah knows best. In the end, we all have to answer to Allah. What I encourage is there's a couple different organizations like Sharia Board of New York, and there's one other one that they specialize in these circumstance of making the Islamic rulings. So I would just turn to them, and I just wouldn't get too involved with what everyone is saying. But again, I don't want to get too much into specifics of individuals in the community here. At the end of the day, the real court is the court of Allah, and we just have to be careful how we navigate that, inshallah. Anything else?
10 more minutes.
Bismillah, go ahead.
Two questions. Question number one, does it have any weight in the court of law who initiated divorce? Number one. The question number two is if one of the spouses initiated divorce and the other one does not want this divorce to happen, would that delay the process?
Great questions. Number one is, again, I'm not going to talk about Alabama specific because I don't want people to take my thing and run with it. But generally, the general common law is, and when it comes to divorces, it really doesn't matter who initiates. Because you file a petition, and then the other side can answer the petition. They can file a counter petition as well. So it really doesn't matter in that sense. Strategically, there are strategic reasons it can matter though. Because once divorce is filed, you're limited in moving funds. There's a lot of strategy involved. So from a legal perspective, it doesn't really weigh in who filed first or not, but there may be strategic implications over who filed. So that's something that has to be discussed one-on-one with an attorney. Number two, what was your second? Your second was very important.
The second one is if one of the spouses wanted to divorce.
Oh, yes. Look, if both spouses, if one of the spouses doesn't agree to the divorce, yes, it will slow things down potentially, but not by too much. But it can slow things down. I mean, look, the easiest situation is when both are in agreement about everything. The other thing is maybe they both agree about divorce, but they don't agree about the terms. That's what's going to slow things down. It's not about agreeing to divorce or not. Like when we go before the judge asks, do you want a divorce? Do you want a divorce? Is there anything that can be done to save the marriage? But really, in practically speaking, it doesn't stop things. It may just delay it by a little bit, but it doesn't have any practical implications. Well, at the end of the day, if one side wants a divorce, they're going to get the divorce regardless. But yes, the more disagreement there is, the more delay there is. Disagreement means delay. Yes?
Go ahead.
Salam, young man.
So my question is not the end side and the beginning side.
That's the best side.
So you said that Islamic marriage and legal marriage is separate.
Correct.
So do you advise getting Islamic marriage without legal marriage or both?
That's a great question. Should somebody get legally married or Islamically married without legally married? Look, there's a lot of stereotypes out there, but I will tell you, I have had situations with both male and female clients where, I had a female client, she did not want to get legally married. She's like, dude, I'm a doctor, I'm 30 something, I'm making like $500,000 a year, and I fell in love with this guy, but homie's making like $70K a year. Like, I'm not about to legally marry him and have him hold that over my head. Like, it's not happening, Habibi, So in that situation, I just made a cohabitation agreement for them that identified the roles and responsibilities without them being legally married, which is something you can do. Look, I would say it's a case-by-case situation, but there may be many cases where it makes sense to be Islamically married without legally married. But there's also downsides to that. For example, there may be downsides tax-wise. There may be downsides medical-wise, so you may have to have power of attorney and other things. There may be downsides immigration-wise. So in an ideal situation, I would say get legally married with an Islamic marriage contract. That would be the best. But if you can't get the Islamic marriage contract, I would say it's better if you can't get the prenup, I would say it's better to be Islamically married and not legally married than to be legally married without getting a prenup. And if you're already married, don't worry about it. You could always get a postnup, or maybe that ship has sailed. But I'm just trying to protect the next generation. And again, the goal isn't to protect the man or the woman. It really is to protect the household and the marriage altogether. And I've seen the prenups save sisters just as much as it saved brothers.
Sometimes, as an imam, when we receive the cases, like for divorce, I will not specify any case, inshallah, that's just a general. We are sometimes in a dilemma, honestly, because when they come to us, do you want to continue talking about your case from the Islamic perspective or from the legal perspective or law perspective? Well, certain cases, they go with us, according to the Sharia. When it turns to, for example, they don't have their rights according to their desires, they turn the case down and they go to the court. Now, here's the problem that we're facing sometimes. When they go to the court and they finalize everything in the court and they get divorced completely according to the law of the land, they come back to the masjid. Sheikh, we need to be divorced. طيب, shukran. How exactly you want me to do it? Based on the Sharia or based on the law? You got it from the law. Why are you coming back to me? For example, because we need to be divorced Islamically. Alhamdulillah. This is the rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we need to abide by the rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But you need to understand that when you seek divorce, there are certain rules connected to this divorce. You need to respect it. So when you go to the husband, hey husband, you divorced your wife in the court. Yes, I did. You were. You wanted to divorce her or not? No, Sheikh. I was forced. I was being forced to divorce her. Because I am not the one who initiated the divorce. She is the one. But in this case, from the Sharia perspective, now I'm talking Sharia, we cannot consider the husband that divorced her like his wife. We cannot consider him. Because he did not divorce her. He was forced, right? To say it or write it. So in this case, we go back to this brother. Hey, would you like to divorce her? Since you already done, you're done. Sheikh, I have one request. What exactly you want? Well, according to the Sharia, Sheikh, the custody of my kids, if she is being married to another person, that means she has to bring me my kids. So when we go back to the system, would you like to abide by the Sharia? So sometimes the masjid gets stuck in the middle of the two. Not because we don't want to do it. Not because we don't want to serve it. Subhanallah. You see this sometimes.
No, it's a very important point. Sister had a question in the back. Alaikum salam.
So when you're talking about prenups, some people are a bit, they don't understand what a prenup is or are ignorant about that. So how would you recommend, especially for the younger generation, how do we approach the topic of prenups correctly where we don't intimidate the other person in the relationship?
Very good question. So I was actually speaking with the Masjid board about this issue earlier, and one of the things that we had suggested was coming up with basically just a program and making it a requirement before the Masjid gets involved in getting people married, where we do premarital counseling. And as part of the premarital counseling, it would be, and this is a service my firm offers, we would basically explain the importance and the need for a prenup. And again, the way we explain it is this, that when you get legally married, you are signing a contract with the state that you haven't read. This contract takes away the rights Allah has given you as a woman, as a man, to keep your own property. It creates confusion. It mixes the property. When there's mixture, there's confusion. That leads to chaos. That leads to anxiety. That leads to problems. That leads to increased divorces. So let's just have an agreement that preserves both of your Islamic rights. This way, sister, if your husband takes a big debt and that debt doesn't fall on you, and vice versa. If you make a big business also, your husband can't be entitled to have, and vice versa. The rule should go for both. And in terms of you being taken care of, we can agree to that in the prenup itself about, God forbid, what is your security in the case of a divorce. And that could be a significant amount that is agreed upon as a deferred meher. We have different ones we suggest. So the way we suggest, again, if you know people are getting married, just tell them to go to our website, muslimlegal.com, and just say, hey, I'm about to get married, and or even if you don't even have someone in mind yet, but you want to understand and we could do a consultation and we go through all these things, inshallah. And if you have someone in mind, then both of you can attend that. And I really try to present it, because my job when we're writing these things is my goal is to see the marriage succeed. So even if our client has some bad ideas about what he wants, we advise against it. We try to give him the advice on how you can be successful in it.
The last question, because of time. The last question.
Yes?
So do people have to go through the legal marriage even if they have already done this prenuptial agreement?
Well, the prenup is only if you're going to get legally married. If you're not getting legally married, then you don't need a prenup. What you would probably need is a cohabitation agreement.
So you need before or after?
No, the prenup is done before. The postnup is if you're already married and you still want an agreement, then you do it that way. I mean, I'm fine to stay and answer some more questions. It's up to you unless you want us to finish.
Because of time, maybe we can take another 2 questions.
Okay, so let's be fair to the sisters though. Wait, for sisters, anything else?
Take one sister, the brother, and Dr. Absattar, the last one.
Anything? Okay, yeah.
You just mentioned about the relationship and the woman need to feel secure. And
Yeah.
just what the sister asked that question. How do we approach somebody who's trying to get engagement with somebody, with a girl, and then he's asking you, because I have some friends, they already
Okay.
well established, but when they ask about the prenup, it's the relationship broke and it didn't continue.
Good riddance. Listen, if someone is not willing to marry you with a prenup, whether you're a woman or a man, this is not someone you need. And I will tell you this, wallahi, it's for the protection of the sisters as much as the brothers and protection of the family. And I will tell you this, my fear is, you know what these Western laws are doing? They're disincentivizing marriage. That's what's happening. Men out there, alhamdulillah, we are Muslim and we're different. At least we're supposed to be. But the problem is, the Prophet warned us, you're going to follow the previous nations. The problem is this. This is a society that gives zina intimacy freely. Right? But marriage comes with a huge bill if it doesn't work. So that's why these Western men now don't get married. Why should they get married? They can have the benefit of marriage without the responsibility. It's self-destructive for everyone. These laws are not working, they're failures. All a prenup is regardless, you have to be in a contract. The difference is this is how I would explain it. Either you can have a contract written by kuffar that support genocide, or you can have a contract that you yourself write that's in accordance with the sunnah. What do you prefer? Kafir contract or Muslim contract? That's how you explain it. The way I would go about it though, again, if you don't even want to bring up the prenup thing, is say, listen, and I'm suggesting this as a requirement for the masjid, which is, listen, before we do your marriage, you have to do a premarital counseling with, for example, Muslim legal, and we'll just call it premarital counseling. And in that premarital, we talk about the necessity of a prenup. Because right now, I feel like anyone, man or woman, who gets married without an Islamic prenup in America is a fool. They're shooting themselves in the foot. They're setting themselves up for failure because this is a failed country. It's a failed country. We're supporting genocide. We failed. Children are being born out of wedlock at insane rates. We're failing. So the status quo doesn't work. Our deen is the solution.
Yes, brother, there. You have a question?
Me?
You have a question?
Oh no, I was just going to ask, like, in Islamic law, we have to pay mahar, right? Like when marriage, like, so then you are talking about like Islamic prenuptial something, and there is like financial responsibility from husband to wife. So how does it interact with the mahar?
Well, no, mahr is just, so one is there's the nafaqah, the responsibility of the husband to spend on the wife. That is separate than the mahr. So the husband is responsible for the housing, shelter, clothing, all of that. Then he's responsible for the mahr, the marital gift. The general rule, the default rule is the marital gift is given up front, right? But over the years and with the culture, it's been divided where there's a deferred amount. So you and the wife can agree to a deferred amount, and that makes sense. Like, okay, listen, I'm going to marry you. I don't really need a huge gift up front, but what if we get divorced? I fear Allah. I've heard women say this. I fear Allah. I'm not going to take half your money and a third of your income. That's not halal for me. But at the same time, if we're going to get divorced, especially if I'm not even at fault, I should have some level of security. So if you divorce me, what is going to be my level of security? Or if I seek a divorce because I'm subjected to physical abuse or whatever, I should still have some protection. What is the case? And what I advise is an amount per year of marriage. Because look, someone getting $100,000 after 6 months of marriage is not fair. But also someone getting $100,000 maybe after 40 years of marriage is not fair also, So you have to have a balance. Anything else? طيب, yes.
Are you talking about mahar and muakhar?
Yes, that's what we were just talking about, mahar and muakhar. So, any other questions from the sister side? What I'm going to do, because I know a lot of times people going through a lot of different things, it's not cheap to talk to a lawyer. So inshallah, I will, if people have, I know there was maybe some people had some personal things or whatever, I'll stop by the back and answer any personal questions, inshallah, from the sisters. So if you, I don't want anybody to feel that their voice is unheard or things are not fair or anything like that. So if you have any questions, I'll come back to the back and then I'll come back to the front for the brothers as well, inshallah. So we can have one-on-one questions. But, wa iyyakum. What I want to say is this, alhamdulillah, it's a blessing to be here, jazakallah khairan. I want to thank the masjid for inviting me. Number one is if you need any legal help, go to muslimlegal.com. We can help with the mediation. We can help with the estate planning, making sure you have wills and trusts. God forbid someone gets in an accident, we can help with that. Whatever legal support you need, go to muslimlegal.com. Number two is if you didn't donate today, please make sure you donate for the Gaza project we have. Alhamdulillah, I think we've been enough to support around at least 20-30 amputees who've lost their leg, alhamdulillah. So $1,600 will support the amputee. And just make dua Allah protects this ummah and keeps us on the straight path. Jazakallah khairan. And I'll stick around to answer any more questions, inshallah.